My first duty station was at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Somewhat familiar because my brother was here in the Marines. He was in Camp Lejeune. So 9/11 happened. They closed down Fort Bragg. I kid you not, none of us slept for almost 72 hours. My girlfriend, my wife at the time, which is my girlfriend, we're crying. We're thinking I'm leaving. So there was flags everywhere, U.S. flags. Everybody was like together.
Yeah.
By the end of those 5 years, right before I wanted to stay alive, I didn't want to stay alive. I didn't want to be living anymore. I couldn't see myself living, taking 13 pills every day.
Yeah.
And
Hello, everybody. Welcome to an episode of TAOL Global, a podcast by TAOL Project. This project is intended to help everybody, help ourselves to align our core values with what we want to be in life, our behavior, and in that way we can achieve what we really want to become in life. Today we have a very special guest. This is a friend of mine that I've known for a couple of years now. His life story is it's unique, and there are so many things that I can learn. I can tell you that I've learned from him, from life experiences and all the way to neurobiology. When we talk about neuroplasticity and readapting ourselves again to different aspects of life. Today we have Alfredo Hurtado. Alfredo, how are you?
Gabriel, I'm good. Thank you. How are you? Thank you for the amazing introduction.
Thank you so much, Alfredo, for being here. And for those who don't know you, I mean, you're already very famous in this area.
Little bit. Crazy.
So your past is very intriguing, right? Because I identify with you because we share that passion for music. You were in a rock band. You used to play, but then life took you to a different place, and then you enroll the army, right? How was that process? Why don't you tell us a little bit about your history? Where you were born, and how was your life as a kid, as a teenager?
So I was born in Newark, New Jersey, and we say Newark, but it's
Yeah.
spelled Newark, so Newark, but we say Newark because that's where we're from. So I was born there. It's only a short amount of time outside of the city, so I had access to the world, right? New York, and then being so close to all that culture, the ability to be in a Greek neighborhood and then be in a Colombian neighborhood 5 minutes later, right? And to be able to enjoy authentic cuisine. But you know, mis padres, they're from Colombia, so that's the culture we had and I had growing up. We did have some Hispanics where I grew up when I was little. And then as I grew older, there was huge influx of Peruvian immigrants. And I mean, there were still like in Elizabeth and in New York and Queens and stuff. You had a lot of, you know, Puerto Ricans everywhere, of course, but you know, Colombians, and then you had the Cubans in Bergen or in North Bergen or out over there. Was it West New York?
Mm-hmm.
Union City. That's it. Oh my God, it's been a while.
Yeah.
It's been a while. I've been in North Carolina longer than I lived in New Jersey. So.
Mm-hmm.
And so just having access to that with culture was great, but also with music, right?
Yeah.
With having access to listening to all different types of music. But my father was a big influence in the arts for me. He, you know, aside from cumbia and you know, things like that, he was a huge fan of tangos, argentinos, and you know, rancheras and he loved and classical music. I remember watching the Vienna Orchestra on New Year's Day every year.
Nice.
They played every year, so I remember watching like that stuff. But so both my parents are immigrants, like I said, from Colombia, and my dad came 71, and then 2 years later, my mom and my brother and sister came. Excuse me. And my dad got to Brooklyn when he first came here, and he didn't live in the greatest neighborhood at the time, which was East New York and Pennsylvania Avenue, I think, that area. And it was a rough neighborhood. But he worked at some car plant, not a car plant, like auto parts and stuff.
I see.
And he kind of was taken under his wing by like another like an Ecuadorian guy, and then that's kind of like helped him out. But he went from Brooklyn. My family went from Brooklyn, and the company moved to a town called East Newark, and there was a factory there, and it was actually, I mean, it was they kind of like kept people out, right?
Yeah.
If you weren't part of that community, they kept people out. So, but my dad got in, I guess, because through the company, and also he kind of looks Italian a little bit, right? So it was a lot of Italians in that town, and Polish, and the town over Scottish. So it was predominantly white, and so he got into this town, which is a lot. It was nicer. It wasn't rough like Brooklyn was. It was a lot calmer, but it was very protected. Mafia, that whole area was very protected. So.
Was it rough to live around there?
It was not. So I mean, it was tough to live. As far as rough, like, I mean, I ate.
Yeah.
I lived in a house. Like, I didn't live in a house. I lived in an apartment, but it was, I had hot water. So, but it was tough because, it is a fast life, right? Everybody didn't have time for like nonsense. It's Jersey, and everybody's like, and you had to kind of like look out for yourself. People look out for you, but sometimes, it doesn't work out that way, and things happen. But I did well. I had friends, and we all took care of each other. And yeah, we got into trouble. We got into fights. We did things like that. But it was, it's a tough life. You got the pressures of being next to one of the biggest cities in the world. And then you have this town that's right outside of it. And, a lot of people, you have a great amount of people who are athletes, amazing soccer players and basketball players. And then something happens. We graduate high school, and then there's a path that we take, and it happens there. And I don't know what it's like now. It's been years, but I know that you just end up either partying your ass off, you go away to college, you do your own thing, or you stay in the town. That's what you do. And I mean, whatever you choose, that's fine. But I kind of got lost in that, right? I played soccer I did well. I was an all-state soccer player. I got a scholarship, a Division I soccer scholarship. And so that was another pressure of the, Soccer Town, USA. We grew up in an area where produced amazing soccer players. And you hope that you had these influences, right? Like that would help you out. But sometimes things in life don't work out that way because of trauma, because of things that you never deal with. And you don't know why. You're a kid. You're like, why the heck am I going through all this stuff? So yeah, there were things that happened, and like I said, it was tough. It was tough growing up, and soccer was the escape, but so was music. My dad constantly was trying to, get me to play an instrument. He would buy a keyboard or a little mini set of drums or like a mini guitar. So
did he play?
He didn't. He didn't play, but he played soccer. He was a great soccer player. I mean, that's who got me to play soccer. I mean, he's Colombian. Shit. we just have a love for the game, and he wanted to pass that on to me, and he taught me how to play, and so but yeah, but he wanted me to play instruments too. No pressure, right here, play soccer, play instruments. But I think that was great. I think that was great that he did that for me, right? I look back at it and I was like, that's great that he pushed that on me. So so I turned 14 years old. I'm sitting in my living room watching MTV. It was either MTV or jukebox at the time. Jukebox was like a new thing that was happening, and you can order the songs or just watch them, whatever it was. It was awesome. But excuse me. But I was sitting there watching. Let me take it back a little bit too, because I had to connect this story with this other fact. But
take your time.
Another one of my influences was my brother, musically, for sure. He was the American influence. Like, I remember walking into his bedroom and all I hear is, I am Iron Man. Right? Like all that stuff. But Led Zeppelin was king at the house. Like, he loves Zeppelin. And so that influenced me a lot. I just loved hearing John Paul Jones playing that synth or playing that bass, and Bonham just banging those drums, Kashmir. All those songs had so much diversity, the early stuff. And so I love that stuff. And so, okay, getting back to this, I'm 14 years old. I'm sitting on my couch. I'm watching MTV, and a lot of these bands are just playing acoustically. But this band was an 80s rock band, Great White. And so it was like late 80s, early 90s. And they did a cover song, Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You, from Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I love this song. And I said, it's so good. I was like, I need to play that. So it was around my birthday. And I said, Pa, I want to play guitar. He's like, you know how many instruments? He's like, we're going to go to flea market. We'll go to flea market. Paid like, I don't know how much. I think it was like $10 or whatever for the guitar. It was a nylon classical guitar. Excuse me, nylon string classical guitar. And so I took it home and I just started strumming and playing and figuring out how to do this thing. And then I had a friend who started playing already. He had some lessons, and so he was showing me a couple things. So then I would pick that up, and but then I would just figure things out. And sometimes it was awesome because it seemed like, oh my God, this is impossible, complicated to play. But then you figure out, oh, it's not. Yeah, it really isn't.
But you didn't take like formal classes, like methodical. Everything was by you learned everything from your friend and from what you were listening to, right?
Yeah, so everything was by ear.
Yeah.
And then what my friend was showing me was like maybe chord formations, because I was just doing a lot of like finger picking stuff. So I never really got the whole concept of chords until someone showed me chords. Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. I can do so much more with that, right? So, but because I put myself through so much of like, doing things so much harder than it was so much easier to start picking up things as I went along. But it was also because I was practicing all the freaking time. So, but I kept going and I kept practicing. I was like, oh, I love this. And I learned how to play freaking that song, every song and whatever song, and then just started writing songs. And so my brother had a friend who was the same Zeppelin fan. There were total Zeppelin geeks, and he was a drummer. Yeah, he's a Puerto Rican kid. He's a drummer, fucking insane, awesome. And so he would, so you asked me about the lessons, right? I started playing at 14. When I turned 17, I had been working already. I had some money. I said, you know what? Let me go take some lessons and then see where I'm at. I kind of wanted to gauge myself to see how far I've come or at that point. So I took lessons. The guy was just showing me, I mean, good skilled guitar player. You could tell he's been playing for a long time, probably in like late 20s, just kind of like. So he showed me some scales. He did things like that. He was like, yeah, you pretty much got it. He's like, you just do some of these scales, do something like that. He's like, you'll be fine. He's like, if that's cool if you don't come back, So I did 2 lessons, and then at the second one, I was like, yeah,
I got it.
I got it. I'm all right, right? So, so I was 17, and then so I had kept playing a little bit, and never really in a band at this point. And then up until maybe like 19, 18, 19, so like a year or so later, I was in my freshman year of college, and Led Zeppelin or Page and Plant were touring.
Mm-hmm.
They were doing their tour. So I went to go see it at my brother's friend's house. I had come back from school. I mean, my college was only like 25 minutes away from my house, but still I came back, and I was dorming, but I came back anyway. I had the dorm, right? But I came back to watch this concert on TV, and we watched it. It was great. We're like, oh my God. And then so he's like, so what's up? What have you been up to? And I told him I've been playing this and that. He's like, no, really? Let me check this out. So I sat down. I just started playing all this shit. I started like singing and doing all this stuff. He's like, oh my God, that's amazing. He's like, here, check this out. Well, he had an electric guitar. He's like, here, you take it. You've earned it. He's like, you're amazing. And then like, I want to say about a year after that date, we were sitting in his living room again, and he's like, let's start a band. Let's start, you can sing. We'll play the drums. He's like, I'll play the drums. And he's like, I got an amazing guitar player and a bass player. So we put this thing together. We just started playing in a rehearsal space.
Yeah.
And it started getting great, and it was working. It was good, but then due to certain things, it didn't work out.
Yeah.
Right. I ended up moving, and it just didn't work out. So when that happened, I still kind of played, but I moved to Florida.
Oh, you moved to Florida?
So I moved to Florida. So I had dropped out of school after my first year. Again, like I said, I just had issues that I haven't dealt with that just were, I felt unstable. Mm-hmm. So I just trying to figure things out, right? Trying to figure out who I'm supposed to be on this planet, and just the school, I was just not prepared for college. Mm-hmm. Was not. I got to play season. It was great. It was fun, but you still have to pass classes in order to play. Mm-hmm. In order to play. So, but I moved to Florida because my dad had moved there because he had lost his job in Jersey and wanted a different life. He was getting older, so he felt like it was a hard life living in Jersey.
Yeah.
So he moved to Florida, found a place, and then everyone, like he did when he moved from Colombia to here. Mm-hmm. So he found the place, and then we just kind of like followed, right? And so I spent about a year or so there, and I kept playing, and I while I was going to school there, I performed at the school, and then I would audition for bands, and I was just really doing things by myself, but I just didn't have the confidence yet to be like, I really do this by myself. But I came back home. Well, went back to Jersey and ended up moving to New York because my brother lived in Manhattan, and that's who I stayed with. And so I was living there. He had linked me up with one of his friends who he had known from the past, who was a performer, Broadway singer. Oh. He said, well, tell your brother to go see this person. And actually, they were in Jersey, so I had to go to Jersey. And then, how convenient, right? I moved to New York, and everything I do is going to be in Jersey now. But no, that's not what happened. I just had to go there for the audition. I went, I got the audition, and then boom, I was in this Motown musical review called Exposure, and it's my first professional gig as a musician. We freaking tour. First of all, coming out of New York, my first show was in Wilmington, UNC Wilmington, 1999, and so there was a hurricane that day. So right after the show, they evacuated us, so we got out of there. But that was my first legit paying professional gig as a musician, and so it was a Motown review. We did Motown stuff, but so Hispano. So they were like, hey, do some Santana and do some Ricky Martin. And at the time, La Vida Loca was huge,
Yeah.
right? It was like the freaking hit. So Ricky Martin, I was doing La Vida Loca. I had a little more hair then, so I could spike it up and make it look all right. But no, that was an awesome moment in time. I got to play like different colleges throughout the country, mostly like on the East Coast and in the South, and then, but I also performed inside. I mean, not every public school, but a lot of public schools in the boroughs in Brooklyn, Queens, Manhattan, which is awesome because I got to work in the schools, but I, not we soon come to find out that, wow, I'm gonna keep doing things like that, right? But I didn't know this. Yeah, I didn't know this was gonna happen, right? Who would have known? But yeah, so I would perform at these schools, but while all of this happened, I met. Well, I didn't meet her for the first time. I knew her, but my wife, we kind of met up again after we had left high school, but we started dating, and I was like, well, I want to get serious, but I also wanted to. I felt like I needed to leave New York.
Yeah,
it was getting dark. It was getting dark. It was getting very dark. So I was like, I need to leave. I need to start new. I need to start fresh. I need discipline. Right now, I need some discipline. And I had always thought, my brother was in the Marines. He joined the Marines, and when I was younger, I was like, I always wanted to do something in the service. So, but I was already, at this point, I was like 24 years old. I was like a grandpa. So I go and I enlist in the Army, and so does my wife. And the reason, there's so many different reasons why, right?
Yeah.
I just kind of needed to start over,
But it's impressive that you realize about it by yourself, like because there's a lot of people who can't actually realize that that's what they need. They need to put some action, like I need some discipline. I got to do something about it, because you kind of knew what you didn't want, and I think that was a very valuable lesson.
Yeah, totally. And we can start over anytime.
Yeah.
We can start. That's right. Excuse me. So I go and I join the Army. And my wife joins the Army. She becomes my wife while we're in the Army.
Oh.
But I joined in 2000, and I was at the Brooklyn MEPS, and I got sworn in. And as I was leaving, news came on that the USS Cole was bombed in Yemen, and Osama bin Laden was behind it. But we heard of Osama bin Laden right before, but we were like, oh, okay, whatever. But who would have known that a year later, right when because where I got sworn in, it's in Brooklyn. It's right there at, it's where the Verrazano Bridge is. So you can see, it's like, you can see Manhattan, you can see all that stuff. And I just remember driving to the airport to go to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, which is like another world, because I am with, I don't know, 8 million people or whatever it is. And and these buildings everywhere, and this crazy history. And then I go on this plane, and boom, I'm in the middle of the US in some US Army base training now. And I submerged myself in the culture, because I was like, this is the only way it's going to work, is that I need to be convinced, or I need to convince myself that this is it. It has to be. It's the only way to survive in this thing, right? I've signed my life away to the government. Now they can do whatever the hell they want with me. So I'm in it. But yeah, I did 19 weeks of training, basic combat training, 8 weeks, and then like 12 weeks something like that, of military police school. And then that was over, and then we drove down in a bus, 2 buses, because one broke down, didn't have air.
Oh.
Yeah, and broke down. and we're like in Mississippi, Arkansas, like all
Yeah.
those southern states, to get to Georgia, to Fort Benning, Georgia, to airborne school. And that was another 3 weeks. And my first duty station was at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And for me, it was somewhat familiar because my brother was here in the Marines. He was in Camp Lejeune.
Uh-huh.
Excuse me. So I've been here before, so it was had a familiar smell to it. But now it was my turn. It was my turn, and here I am. And I mean, I'm young. I was young still, but I'm not as young as a lot of these kids that were like 18, 17, you know, with written consent from your parents. That's wild. But yeah, so we got to Fort Bragg in May, and then like what, 4 months later, is it September, right? I mean, 4 months later, 9/11 happens. Yeah. And I was like, what a hell of a time to join the military. Exactly. Holy crap, right? I like, you know, so, but I was in, you know, there's nothing, I mean, you can get out, but you go to jail, you know, you AWOL. So, but I was in, I made the commitment. I was like, I'm going to see this through. Of course. I mean, I had no choice, but still, looking back, I know, I don't know much, but I do know that a lot of it was bullshit, right? A lot of things were bullshit, but at the time, I couldn't have thought of being in a better place or in a better situation than to kind of like be part of the response of what happened to 9/11.
So somehow you felt some kind of pride, responsibility that like I'm here to protect the people here. Yeah. Or to make whoever is responsible for that pay. That's what you were thinking back then.
Yeah, they defaced my childhood, right? The skyline was completely changed. Completely changed from what I remember growing up. The Twin Towers were amazing. So a year before that, it was my wife's sister's birthday. We went to celebrate in Manhattan because they lived in Jersey. So we went to Manhattan. We went to this restaurant called Mars. Mars in, what was it? Mars something. I forget the numbers, but it was in Manhattan. It was like across the street from Radio City Music Hall. Oh, okay. It was like located downstairs. It had like the spaceship thing. It was like this cool thing, but we ate there and then we went to the World Trade Center. And for the first time ever, I mean, I'd lived there most of my life. And the first time ever, I went up to the top. I've been in the Twin Towers, but I've never been on the roof. And so I was on the roof for the first time and the last time because that shit was destroyed the following year. Yeah. But another thing about the Twin Towers is that right before I was supposed to leave, but my date had changed. But the day I was supposed to leave, I was like going to the hotel to stay at the hotel so they could bus us in and take us. And so my girlfriend, my wife at the time, which is my girlfriend, we're crying. We're thinking I'm leaving. So we drive downtown. We go to the World Trade Center and we put our heads up against the wall, right? Yeah. So you're looking straight up at the skyscraper. You know how impressive that is?
I can imagine. It's crazy.
Immense. But we had access. Like, you can walk up to the building, no problem. Nobody thought anything of it. Yeah. And so so there was always a connection with those buildings with her and me. And that happened, and it was like, oh my God, it was heartbreaking. So the day it happened, 9/11, we got our baby furniture. Oh. Yeah. So Diana was, we got to Fort Bragg in May, and then we found out that she was pregnant. So we had gotten married the December 2000, and then so 6 months later in May, we find out she's like a couple months pregnant. Yeah. So it was airborne school. I got out of airborne school and I was like in the freaking prime of my life, and I hadn't seen her in maybe a month or so, and that was it. That was it. Everyone's like, don't look at her, you're gonna get her pregnant. And what I do? I got her pregnant. Shit. I got her pregnant. So we get our baby furniture that day, and it was a sad day. I was training. I was concerned. My brother lives in he lived in Manhattan at the time, so of course I was worried about him. But we knew we're going somewhere.
Yeah,
I was like, something's happening. We're going somewhere for sure. But we went where I'd never thought I'd go for deployment, and as soon as 9/11 happened, they closed down Fort Bragg, and I worked at the gate, and all of us, like I kid you not, none of us slept for almost 72 hours. I was hallucinating.
Yeah,
freaking hallucinating, and so were several people. But so we did that, and then they took us off the gate. We got replaced, and then they send us home for a night, and they said, "Get your stuff. We're leaving." And as soon as we got back onto Bragg, so I spent the night at home, and then I got back to Bragg, and they're like, "All right, we're going to Washington.
Yeah,
we're going to DC." So I was like, "Okay, that's cool," because my wife's pregnant. I'm close to home, so I get to go see it when the baby's born, and so. But yeah, we pack up our stuff. We drive from Fort Bragg to DC. Mm-hmm. All these vehicles, hundreds of vehicles, going up 95 military vehicles, and as soon as we get to DC, you see the smoke coming out of the building, and then you see all like. But we got escorted in by the state police, and traffic. The cars stopped. They were honking the horn. I mean, it's 9/11. Everybody was there was flags everywhere, U.S. flags. Everybody was like together.
Yeah,
it's crazy. And so when they saw the army pulling into town, everybody's like going crazy. And so that was like, I was like, wow, that's really impressive. But then we started working. The crash site, like it was just it was nasty, right? It was just smelled the char, and you know, it looked like a war zone. And to know that many people died there, right? I don't know how many, 100 something people died. But also like they had this area where they were bringing the plane parts in, you know, and it's wild because there's so many conspiracies and there's so many different things about it. And I was like, I mean, unless they put me on some really good drugs, I know what I saw, right? And they're like, you know, but I wouldn't put it past them. But no, it was like I said, it was like an honor, right, to be where I was at, because now I could do something about it. Yeah, it wasn't just going to talk about it. And say, what am I going to do? I'm like, I could do something. Just send me anywhere. Just let's do it. But I spent 7 months there, and my daughter was pregnant. Or my daughter, oh my God, she was born. My wife gave birth to my daughter, and my daughter was not pregnant. She wasn't even born yet. Jesus. But she was born, and I got to see her birth. They gave me like some time, a little bit of time, but you know, I had the chance to be there, which was great. And then I came back in April, and then I want to say, so I think December, so I came back in April of 2002, and then December 1st, I flew out to Afghanistan. And that sucked because my daughter was 11 months old, and she was so adorable, and she was little, and we were like really close. I mean, we're still freaking close, right? Yeah. But still, that's my baby. And so I left her. I was like, oh, great. And I go to this freaking country because we're fighting. I don't know who the hell we're fighting at this point. Like, what the hell's happening? No, we went there. I saw some stuff. I saw some crazy shit. I saw like little kids holding AK-47s. Oh, like little kids, like 8, 9 years old, little.
What?
Yeah, it was wild. It was wild. Young kids, fucking these big ass guns. You know, we saw the burqas, and we saw how some people are mistreated. Like they just beat people up. They don't give a shit. But I did some combat patrols there. I did I did work the prison,
Mm-hmm.
and I worked at the gate, the front gate. So the access point where
Yeah.
the main access point where everything came in and out. But as fancy as it sounds, it was like we were back in time.
Mm-hmm.
It really was. It was interesting arriving there and thinking for a second, did the plane crash? Am I in hell? Like, or where am I? Where is this? Like, what the hell is this? But it wasn't nasty, disgusting. I just never seen that. I've never seen desert like that. I've never seen. I felt like I was on Mars. I mean, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I mean, there's no doubt it's beautiful, but it's so trying to wrap your head around
Yeah.
of something that much of that grand of a scale
Mm-hmm.
is it could take a little while, maybe never. Maybe never, but it was just wild being out there. And so we did a lot of missions, a lot of humanitarian missions, food, water,
Mm-hmm.
hooking up villages with electricity.
So it's kind of a, let me turn this on. It's kind of a double purpose mission, like you're there to kind of fight those guys, but at the same time, you're also kind of helping the locals, right? Because even those guys were kind of victims of these bad guys, right?
Yeah. I mean, you're limited to what you can do as a human being.
Yeah.
Kids can't go to school. Kids can't play sports. They can't listen to music. I mean, these are all things that are created by humans for humans. Like, but the way kids are treated is wild. And, so us being there, you could have mixed feelings about it. If no one's ever been there, what would you know what we did?
Mm-hmm.
You only hear what is put out there. But yeah, the fighting wasn't as much as the humanitarian missions. There was a lot of humanitarian stuff happening. And then going to different villages, going to see what they need, and what the intentions were for that, who knows?
Yeah.
My mission there was just to provide security for the upper ranking.
It's crazy, right? How you are describing what these kids are living. Is I was just thinking about my childhood and kind of how you describe yours. And it's just so weird that just because of where you are born, you are predestined to experience something.
Mm-hmm.
I had the chance to play, right? To go on the streets and play football. I mean, football, soccer. 'Cause that's how we call it everywhere else in the world. But like this guy, this kids that you're describing, like holding this kind of like heavy kind of weapons. I'm sure they didn't pick that.
No.
Like they were not like, that I want to be a freaking crazy person killing others. Like that wasn't their choice. So it's just very surprising. Well, not surprising. It's just like unbelievable that just because where you are born, like you are predestined to experience some things in life. Some people have it like very very tough. It's just insane. But sorry, you were talking about the humanitarian actions,
right? But like I was saying, I grew up. I mean, it was tough.
Yeah,
but this is rough, dude.
Yeah,
this is rough. This is like, are we gonna have water today? This is like, is there gonna be any running water? Is there, is the well gonna dry out? Like, is there? It's wild.
Mm-hmm.
How does that happen?
Yeah.
Like how are we so fortunate to be born where we have access to running water, electricity, and take it for granted?
Yeah.
You take it for granted.
Something I tell people, particular people from here, from the US, is if you have the chance to travel to a different country, not a first world country, go to a third world country and learn how people live. Because I feel that if you don't experience it by yourself, you can't really measure or make some sense of all the advantages that first world country have. And I mean, it's not a must, right? Like people don't have to go and travel, but I think it's eye opening, and it brings some sense of being more humble, and be grateful, thankful for what we have, because we live in an era, at least here in the US, that we don't have to go out and hunt our food. Um,
Right.
some people they have to, and that was kind of the case during the pandemic. I remember a lot of people here had like a lot of mental problems, which I totally understand, right? um, but then when you turn around and then you see like these other countries, there were people who had to leave their places not because they wanted to, but because they had to. If they didn't go out, they wouldn't have food, they wouldn't eat, they would starve. So like all these conditions are so interesting, and I believe that yes, we have to be uh, thankful, grateful for what we have. On the other side, I also believe that if you have a chance, have an opportunity, you have to take it. Like you don't know when it's gonna present it again. So it's not like people living in first world countries they have to be all the time like thankful for what we have. No, I mean it's important to realize. I think you when you realize of the things that you have access to, I think you can use them in a more efficient and in a better way.
Right.
Yeah,
for sure. Like the first thing I did when I came back was I went to the kitchen, I turned the faucet on, and I started just drinking out of the faucet.
Yeah.
I started just drinking water out of the faucet because I could do that. I couldn't even be in the bathroom and use the same water to brush my teeth and to put it in my mouth or anything like that. Like I just, you know, anything or a toilet, a porcelain toilet. That was nice. That was nice, just sitting on one.
The little things in life.
The little things. Let me tell you, it's great. But like this music thing, it never leaves me, right? So I'm in Afghanistan, and we end up getting a set of drums. I forgot where they came from, but we had a set of drums, and we had a drummer, and then another one of our buddies had a guitar, and then somebody else had another guitar, and so we had a PA system, we had a mic. So I got on, I started singing, and we did a talent show. And a lot of people went up and were singing, and we came in second. We lost to this girl who did an a cappella country song. Beautiful, beautiful. But we did "Fortunate Son" in front of all these troops and stuff, and it was kind of cool. It was like the soldiers doing their own thing, their own talent show, and the MC was like an actual actor. He used to be an actor, but then he joined the military. One of those crazy guys that are like, "Oh, I'm famous, but you know what? I'm gonna be in the army." It's like crazy. I'm like, dude, but whatever. I get it. And so, and then I busted out a rendition of La Bamba, which is always a hit. Always a hit. La Bamba is always a hit. So, yeah. But yeah, it was, there were moments that were crazy, but there were light moments too that were really nice and human and wonderful. I mean, it's all human, but very peaceful. And even though it's a combat zone, you're not fighting all the time. And there it wasn't like Iraq, which we can get to that. But after I came back from Afghanistan, I started the process while I was there to try out for the All Army soccer team.
Mm-hmm.
And so I made it through the application process, and then I went to go try out, and then I made the team. And so the process is for the all armed forces tournament, right? We get to play the Marines, the Navy, and the Air Force. And the winner of that tournament gets to go play in the World Cup for military.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm.
And it's so many cool places. They had them in Brazil, Vancouver, San
Oh.
Diego, Japan. Like there's all over the place, right?
Mhm.
But we lost. The army lost, and so I'm pretty famous for getting injured while I play soccer. So yeah, I got injured like the first game. So I said, I
Oh,
couldn't
man.
play anymore after that, which sucked. But yeah, so after that, I went to Iraq, and I mean, now that was a real shithole. I mean,
Really.
and what I mean by that, not let me rephrase that, a hellhole, not a
Yeah.
shithole. Iraq's another beautiful country.
Yeah.
Some parts of it, I thought I was in Florida. The southern
Mhm.
parts, when we drove in from Kuwait, I thought it was Afghanistan all over again. So I was like, oh no, I can't do this
Yeah.
shit again. 12 months of this shit. But no, we ended up going to a little more populated area. And I mean, the first night we're there, we drop our gear, we go in our tents, we're in there, we're about to go to sleep, and boom, we get mortared.
Oh.
So we're getting mortared all night, and then in the day, we're like doing patrols. We come back, boom, mortared all night. So for 5 days straight, when we first get there, we get mortared almost every night.
Wow.
We're in a bunk.
What do you do when during that? Like, do you have to go to a particular safe place or?
Yeah, they have these. So they have these bunkers laid out around the tent areas, and basically they're just humongous cinder blocks,
Mhm.
like these big concrete blocks. Excuse me. You just go in it and you
Hope for
wait.
the best. Yeah.
You wait. Yeah, you hope for the best. I don't know. That first night, man, was weird because we got into this more like the mortar. I can't even talk. They're mortaring us. And then for some reason I wake up. I'm like, what the hell? How am I waking up? Like, nothing like blew up around me. I was just like fell asleep while we got mortared. They were just getting mortared. I just passed out. So and then I woke up. I was like, oh, is it over? Right? Like wild. But then it just got crazier and crazier. And every time we left, left the base, always got into some kind of firefight, some kind of attack. It was just wild. And then after having only been there for 2 weeks, I was out on patrol. My Humvee gets hit by a bomb, a roadside bomb, and my guys get injured pretty bad, really bad, not pretty, really bad, and I received some injuries, but all of us make it out. Yeah. We get back to Germany, get some surgery there, and then we go back to the U.S., get some more surgery there. My gunner, I have to say, has been in now for 25 years, so he's still in. And so my driver and I were like, "See you later. We're good. We've had enough. Yeah. We've had enough."
Yeah.
So I came back. I did all my treatment. I went to Walter Reed. I did all my treatment up there, and then after a little over a year, having been back from Iraq, I get fully retired from the army, and they send me with some parting gifts like PTSD and traumatic brain injury and some physical ailments as well, back and knees and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So then there's this culture of when you come back and you're this veteran, now you're this crazy old person that has survived these war things, and now all I do is sit around and talk these war stories, right? But also there's this culture of going to the doctor, the VA, and then just getting pumped full of drugs, and trying to figure this out. Yeah, what is wrong with me? And it took about 5 years after I got out to finally kind of like figure some things out, and things started getting better, right? I wanted to stay alive, and by the end of those 5 years, right before I wanted to stay alive, I didn't want to stay alive. I didn't want to be living anymore. I couldn't see myself living, taking 13 pills every day, and I'm like, how is this living? Like I feel like crap. So I started my wife, and so how much time we get on time or?
We're good. We're good. We're about 43 minutes in. We can keep going. Yeah, no problem.
Sure.
Yeah,
All right.
absolutely.
Okay. So I get out of the military. I'm having all these issues, and then after a 1 week stint at the hospital, I come out, and my wife's like, "Here." She gives me a leather bound book. She's like, "Just write everything in there. No one's gonna touch it. That's all yours. Your secret. You're you're safe with that." And so I did. I started writing some stuff down, and I was like, "All right, this kind of has like a little flow." And then I started putting music to it, and boom, I made I wrote like 10 songs, right? I made this CD, and so one day my beautiful wife got the CD, and she never said anything about not sharing the CD. So she shared the CD with my now director of or my boss, and she listened to it. Right. Well, before she listened to it, my wife was like, "I don't know what to do anymore. I can't. I'm up against the wall now. I'm desperate. I don't know what to do for him. He needs help. And here's the CD. He wrote these songs and this and that. So my director checked it out. She listened to it, and she's like, "Holy shit, this guy's really fucked up. I need to meet. I need to meet him. I need to meet him now." Yes. So we get together, and she tells me, "Hey, bring your guitars, and we're gonna do some residencies. We're gonna do some workshops." And I'm like, "What the hell is that shit? I don't even know what the hell. I don't even know what that means. Right? Like, what does that mean?" And so we end up going to Greenville, North Carolina, ECU, and we do about 5 workshops there, all different, like one with seniors, senior citizens, one with like inner city kids, one with like halfway, kids who are like halfway house, like they're out of jail, but they're kind of like in a home.
But what was the performance about? Like, how was it structured?
So it's a residency. So what happens is she teaches different methods of math of dance.
Oh.
And so but those methods are also helpful and useful for other things, like for leadership, for nonverbal communication, for other things like that. But also having the permission to be a human being. We've kind of forgotten that. We kind of like, no, we need to be this serious adult in life and this and that. I was like, no, you gotta, the only thing certain is death. What are you gonna do in between that, right? And you have the ability to do so much. You can dance, you can write, you can run, lift, climb, whatever it is that you want to do, you can do it and go for it. But so for example, we went to the children's wing. Some of the kids are really sick, cancer, some broken bones, and then we're just in a circle in this children's wing, and she's like, "All right, let's everybody do this," and I'll be playing music, and she'll be doing some kind of movement, and even the kids couldn't walk; they're using their arms. Oh shit! Yeah. They're using different things. God damn. But they're into it. Everyone's into it. We're writing. We do text prompts, all that stuff. So there's a whole different, and it's all different. It all can change because of who you're with.
Yeah.
Right. And where you're at too. The space matters as well. But I keep moving. Is the camera fine? I moved it.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay. So I the last one we did was inner city kids. We work with the young kids, maybe like 10, 11 years old. And she was like, "Hey, can you pair up with this kid?" And I'm like, "I'm not a dancer. Are you crazy?" But I didn't say that in my head. I said it in my head. Yeah. I didn't say it out loud. But I said yes.
Of course.
Of course, yes. So I went. She's very convincing. Very, very convincing. So I danced with this kid, or we did some movements and stuff, some weight sharing, and I was like, that was really cool. Something happened to me at that moment. I was like, okay. So I kind of like pushed it back, let it maybe stew for a little bit.
Yeah.
So I started doing more of these residencies. I started working with whole different uh, range of people, abilities, profession, age, whatever. Is they were all over the place, which is awesome. So it gave me access to the different human beings in different stages of their life, right? Um, and then one day, so this is happening. We start this company, and we're starting this company, and I'm playing live while accompanied with music while the dancers are dancing, and I did this for a little while, and then one day I just turned to Michelle, the director, and I was like, you know, I really want to dance. Nice. She was like, yes, yes. So this started, I started dancing in, I want to say it's like 2012, 2013. The company started 2013. And, you know, I tell people dancing saved my life. Dancing has given me the ability to use my brain in a way where I haven't been able to before. Like, so it's healing. So I can remember things, and I can choreography, and you know, these things are changing, like, you know, a count, right? Movement's always changing a count. So I had to have that arrangement and sequence and all that stuff in my brain ready to go. But of course, like anything else, just practice, right? You're just practicing that. But like so we start dancing, and the first thing we do is called Move to Action, and it's a dance about we created this dance, and then it was about my story. We just became a dance of my story. And is the first time I ever choreographed anything. And I picked the song for my part, and it life changing. You know, we rehearsed, and then I had my first professional gig at Meredith. Meredith, yeah, and on that beautiful stage, and I was like, holy shit, I'm doing it. I'm freaking dancing. I'm on stage. And it was just amazing. And that feeling was amazing. And so, I mean, as we continue this company, we're working in schools now all over the state. And now we're working with active duty service members. We're working with veterans. The opportunities that have come to us because of dance. Yeah. And the opportunities because of dance are there's no limit. There's so much you can do with it, with whatever and whoever, and wherever, really. And so we've been working a lot with veterans, and last August, actually 2 years ago, we were approached by a film company in LA, and they wanted to do a documentary about what we do. And so coming out November 11th.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we have a document. Yes, this November 11th. Our documentary is coming out. It's going to be Veterans Day. And they came and they saw our work. We took them to Fort Bragg, gave them access to it. The filmmakers are like, we're doing this. This is what we're doing. Yeah. We need this. And so we created this performance called Patriot, and we collaborated and partnered up with brothers and sisters like these of Asheville, which is a group of veterans, family members, caregivers that write stories about their service and how service has impacted their life and their impact on others because of the service. Yeah. And so, but kind of went a step further, and we were given access to the Buncombe County Veterans Treatment Court, where we worked with veterans who were in a 2-year program that committed nonviolent crime, and that they were able to go through this 2-year program to go back, to be able to go back and do stuff, right? Yeah. Be back in society. And so this is part of the film with these veterans. and so now, we have this amazing documentary coming out. It's a 5 episode series. Ours is an hour long. It's the only dance company.
Oh.
Every other one's like 30 minutes long, but this is going to be an amazing way to talk about and describe what we do, and also how impactful it is to the community. And so, with that being said, this May 22nd, we're having a gala fundraiser at the Stockroom in downtown Raleigh.
Oh, okay.
It's $25 for to get in, and then you donate or you do whatever you need to do in there. But it's $25 for food, for some drinks, some music.
How can people find that?
So if you go to Black Box Dance Theater, and that's theater with a R-E at the end, .org, you go on the website, you'll see everything on there. Look at click on everything. You'll see all the work that we do, not only with the veterans, but with the schools, with, I did work at Durham Bulls Park. We did a performance for math topology, knot theory, and fourth dimensions at NC State University.
Nice.
And now we just got approved for, believe it or not, for a federal grant for the National Science Foundation. We are doing, they got approved for this money based on research that they're doing on the exchange of heat and energy.
Oh.
And so they had asked Black Box, since we were able to help NC State with the grant for the knot theory, fourth dimension, and topology, or they put us in for this one, and they got it. And now for the next 5 years, we'll be going up to Cincinnati, University of Cincinnati, and I believe we're doing a performance first in 26. So fall of 26, summer or fall of 26. But anyway, and then March 24th and 25th, we'll be performing at Peace University. All the details are on the website. And so really quick, we started this off as a military performance. And when we wanted to come back and do some follow-up performances from Patriot. And so the veterans, it was like, what do they do afterwards? Because I'm in a company, I get to dance, I get to do my therapy every day.
Exactly.
So what do they do? Are they just stuck? But no, we have two beautiful dancers, Deidre and Kendall, out in Asheville. And they've been carrying the weight with these veterans for the last year and a half. And our show ended in August. And then I think they got hit with the hurricane.
Oh.
Eileen.
Yeah.
And so they missed a week because they were getting together every Wednesday. But then they got together the following week, and they're like, okay, what do we do now?
Yeah.
And so our show with the veterans not only has become a veteran show, but now it's also the recovery efforts for Eileen, getting that information out, the stories, getting these stories out. And that's basically what we do. We call ourselves, we are nonfiction dancers, right? We dance about things,
exactly,
our community, our world, things that are affecting us, and so we're bringing awareness to these people, to their resilience, to their stories and what they're going through. And so that performance will be on Sunday, the 25th, May 25th. And then if you want to feel really artistic and enjoy dance and for the love of dance, please come on the Saturday show. It's going to be beautiful and amazing. And Black Box's extended dance company family is going to be joining us. So there's going to be a whole bunch of dancers for that. So that'll be happening in May. So just be on the lookout for that. Go on the website, blackboxdancetheater.org. And
that's why I said, like, you were becoming very famous. There's a lot to take from this conversation, like, I think let me start from the end, right? I think humans, we are fans. We love storytelling. this is a form of storytelling because you're telling your story right now in a verbal way. You're using your words. But another way to tell stories through movement, through dance. Another way is maybe a film, creating a movie, or with a song, painting, sculpture. Any type of art, I think, is essential and very, very important for human development. And I think what you went through, it's a very impressive case of what I was saying earlier, neuroplasticity. Um, if I'm not wrong, um, trauma and all this kind of, like we got uh, prints of events in our brains, and it depends on the intensity of the experience, the duration, and the frequency. Right. In this particular case, what a lot of soldiers in combat experiences is so intense, even if it's for one single time. Like the experience of just like being attacked by the enemy, like that's huge. Because you don't know if you're gonna make it or not. And recovering from that requires a lot of effort. you know and I'm very, very happy, very glad that you were bringing that point. Like you didn't want to live by taking pills and just like being medicated like all day long. 'Cause I agree that's not a good life quality. But on the other hand, with what you were doing, you were developing new connections with your neurons and ways to find to connect again, like with yourself. And I'm very, very impressed since the time you told me the story for the first time. Like through art, like you were able to find that kind of cure for what you were carrying with. And I think this is a very powerful message for a lot of people who feel like that and they are taking pills every day. There is something that maybe they haven't tried, and I think it's worth to explore different artistic ways in particular, or maybe non-orthodox. Because maybe it's not art, maybe it's something different. But I think it's important for people to try non-orthodox methods to try to find relief in many of our traumas. In my particular case, what I love, and I think I've mentioned this before, when I moved here, I had a lot of challenges with communication, a different language. But what really helped me was improv, and that was great. I really, really enjoy that.
Love.
Yeah, it's really, really fun.
So helpful. And that's one of the tools that we use. We do this game we call 1 to 10.
Mm-hmm.
And from kindergarten to pre-K, right? We're like, okay, we don't say anything, but what we do is we show them and we ask them, what are the rules? So what I'll do is I'll stand in the middle of the floor and I say, okay. I'm sorry. Before I do that, I'll look at one of my partners, work partners. I look at them. We make eye contact. We make acknowledgement that we're there. We see each other. We wave. I let them know, would you want to be partners? Yes, they said. This is all nonverbal. We get together. I put my finger up, point to myself. I point to them, and I point these two fingers up. Mm-hmm. So what does that mean? And then we tell the kids, what was the first thing that happened? Oh, you found the partner. What was the first thing that happened? You made eye contact. Yes. Well, and you go through that sequence. And then, so I go on the middle of the floor and I say, okay, I'm one. And I just skipped a whole step because we did a whole process of freeze. Change what you're doing with one arm. Change what you're doing with one leg. Change where you're looking. This is a solid shape. All right, change the level. You go down. Change another level. You go up. You do. So we do these different things. So I go on the middle floor and I say, all right, I am one and my partner's two, but we're not saying anything.
Yeah.
I make my first shape. One. My partner sees it, walks around, looks at the shape, wants to relate to it, wants to do something, copy, do whatever he wants, but he's not saying nothing. Mm-hmm. He's just doing it. Gets as close as possible, but doesn't touch. 2.
Yeah.
Now it's my turn. I move around, find another shape. I move far, far away, do another shape. 3. And then so on. We do different shapes. We're moving around.
Yeah.
We do it up to 10.
Mm-hmm.
And then we tell the kids, what just happened? Blah, blah, blah. And then they go through the sequence. Okay, what was the first rule? No talking, but you can say numbers. Yes, perfect. All right, what else? What's another rule? You can't touch. Yes. Can you get really close? Yes. Good. Mm-hmm. Another rule. You can copy. Yes. You can do something different. Yes. So these are all, and so this is the improv. So then we ask him. I said, so what is the improv of this game? It's coming up with the shape on the spot at that moment.
Yeah.
Right. So I think for me, improv is such a good thing for life.
Yes,
because life is just one big thing of improv. Mm-hmm. It really is. It's unpredictable. You don't know what's going to happen next. You just have to kind of like go with the flow.
Yeah.
So, and so doing things like that, and I kind of want to make sure that what I want people to know for me with dance is, excuse me, and healing is that dance isn't the only thing, right?
Yeah.
Doctors are very important. If you have to take medicine, I mean, some people have to take medicine, right? But there definitely are alternatives. Yeah. But you should always be under the supervision of a doctor when you're doing things like that. Mm-hmm. There's always different methods, but I always make sure I tell people that my path and road to success was not just because of one thing. Yeah. It was because I did all of it and I tried all of it and I found what worked and what didn't work.
Yeah.
So, and having that permission to do that, it's not like you go to a doctor and that's it. The doctor gives you a prognostic and that's it. You're done. Mm-hmm. No, it's not, I had so many physical ailments, boom, got over them. My mental stuff, it's still there. But
you learn how to deal with it,
yes. And to like realize what it is, right? Realize that it's just a moment, something that happened. It's part of you. It's not who you are. Yeah. It's a part of you. It's not going to be your whole being. But you have to learn strategies. You have to have tools to be able to identify these things and say, oh, this is what this is. Yeah. And this is what I need to do to be where I need to be. So.
It's as you said, it's a combination of so many different things, and it can include like even the food you eat, the company you have, like your friends, your circle, And I think in this particular case, like I really want to give a shout out to your wife because I think she did a fantastic job, And I always think of her as the connection maker, I think.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for
she's
real.
All the time, like connecting people, and
we're here, right?
Yeah, exactly. we met because of your wife. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I also really want to acknowledge the impressive job that she did.
She's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
That just means I'm a good judge of character, and I know who to hang out with.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So so sometimes we talk and she's like, man, she's like, I don't know if I picked right. And I was like, I did. I was like, you're screwed, girl. No, she's amazing. And she's, and sometimes we could be, very like, we can push back a lot. Because of our insecurities, right? Yeah. Because of what we're afraid of and things. But sometimes, some things get through and she definitely gets through, right? She just knows, she knows a lot about that, the human connection and, the energy and distribution of energy. And she's just amazing. So yeah. I'm lucky. I got lucky.
Yeah. Again, like like so many things to reflect on from this conversation, and people can go from many different angles. Like since there are some people who love understanding how the system works. Like people can detect like failures in the system, with veterans, and the fact that I personally feel that the support groups that veterans have for veterans are very important. Because there is no one else closer to this experience than someone who went through the same. So I think what you guys are doing is unique, and I think if there are veterans who are looking for another tool to add to their box of like potential things to use and release stress or trauma, I think they should try something like this. And again, so much to learn from this conversation. I think this is packed of insightful data information. And I don't know if you want to give a shout out, anything else that you want to add. Or let me ask this:
yeah.
Do you have someone that you admire a lot?
So many.
Yeah,
There's so many. I do. I mean, my wife. She's the way she puts up with me. I mean, whoa. I admire her so much. But no, her, my boss, Michelle, amazing ability to walk into a room and be able to get the person that's least interested to be like fully involved.
Yeah.
But also the ability, she's a master to be able to pull things out here and here based on people's, emotions and the feeling of the room. So, yeah, I mean, my parents for taking a chance and coming here, right?
Yeah.
Leaving the country, you know how that shit is.
Yeah.
Right? That's terrifying. So I admire that. I really do. Even though they're my parents and I'm like, oh, my parents and they're a pain in the butt. I do admire that. That takes a lot of guts. And I think that risk taking, that big risk taking, I get that. I get that from them, right?
Yeah.
So I just got to keep doing it and also just doing different things. Like you said, doing different things.
Yeah.
But yeah, my parents, those people,
those
wife,
people,
Michelle, my wife, Michelle, all those people, they're great. Yeah. And it is, but also, humans are interesting and inspiring as well, because how else are you going to learn anything from anybody if you're not listening?
Exactly. And that is why this is called the art of listening.
Yes.
This project, by the way, some people may not know, but TAOL, TAOL, that's the name of this project. It stands for the art of listening. And going back very quick, just to close to the improv thing.
I love that.
A lot of the improv comes from actually listening to your partner, and in this particular case with your story, I think what I admire a lot from you is that you were always listening to yourself. Like what is what you wanted to do. So you develop that ability to communicate with yourself. And I think that's very hard nowadays. First of all, because of all the distractions that we have. We are all the time on social media, like trying to satisfy what the expectations of others about us. But I think the real thing, or the real question, is how can we become one with ourselves? Like, how do we satisfy what we actually believe? And I think engaging that conversation is going to be essential in the next year, especially with all these technological advances. Our attention span has reduced so much just because we are constantly attacked by information, and I think we really need to spare some time to listen to ourselves and have that internal conversation, even though it's a tough conversation. Sometimes that has to happen. But Alfredo, thank you so much for sharing all this with us. I'm going to make sure to post on the video details, all the information, the website, black box, and all the dates that you mentioned. But I really appreciate you, and thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, Gabriel. Oh my goodness. Woo. Thank you. That was loud. Thank you. Real quick shout out to my daughter. I love you, Lena. You're the best.
Awesome.
You're the best. I love you. But thank you for having me and for allowing me to use my voice, tell my story.
Thanks so much. Thanks, everybody. This was an episode of TAOL Global, a podcast by TAOL Project, and see you next time. Thank you.